Hello, welcome outside. I hope you enjoyed the lecture presentation on the different styles of roofs. If you missed the lecture, I would encourage you to go back and read the notes on it. And so what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to use the roofs I have available to me here on our farm. And we're going to look at some real world examples of different roof styles. Perhaps test your understanding of some of the unique characteristics of each style of roof and see if you can properly identify the different roof styles I show you. I'm going to also show you one style roof that we talked about but I didn't have a picture of on that activity sheet, and a second style of roof that we haven't talked about or identified on the activity sheet. I'm going to point out reasons for that, but just to keep you on your toes, I'm going to point those out. We're not going to spend a lot of time on them, so don't worry too much about those two in particular. They're not very common, and so they're more for the advanced modules, advanced framing modules, but since they're available here, we will take a moment just to appreciate them. And sorry, I lost the pause function off my video here, so you're going to have to bear with me talking and walking. So let's get started. Alright, so we're out here on the farm, and as mentioned, some of these different style roofs are more common because of looks, some are more common because of function, and so I'll make sure to point that out as we go walking around here. So the first one we're going to look at here was the one I was sitting in front of. This is our little chicken coop. So looking at your sheet there, properly identify that one for me. If you guessed that it's a gable roof, you're correct. It has two sloping sides, 1, 2, and something unique about this gable roof I'd like to point out is at the bottoms of the overhang, these little built-out sections, those are called boxed cornices, the little white triangular box out at the bottom. We will make mention of that just because we'll cover it in later lessons, so just something you can take extra note of if you're willing. Yeah, and if you have that activity sheet near you, if you have it, keep it on you and use it as a reference as we walk around here, just to help you with the identification. So I don't have a flat roof on the farm, but I do have like this chicken run here in the background. You'd say, oh, that's a flat roof, and it's like, well, one major distinction is there's nothing over top of that roof keeping water from draining down through it. So I wouldn't call that a roof. And that's more like a landscaping feature. What you would call joists on top are basically just to keep shade for the chickens in the run, or peacocks. I guess we don't have chickens right now, we have peacocks. But I would call that a pergola. So just because something is flat and has joists doesn't make it a flat roof. Okay, so the roof has to be covering something and keeping water out of it. So that was the gable roof, and so now we're going to walk over here. We're going to visit some friendly horses, and this one's a little bit of it might trip you up a little bit. It's a really simple roof, but again, it's not like a clear example like some of these out here. So we're over here at the horses now, and we got their little shelter in the background. And so, any guesses on what we have there? Now, if you said a shed roof, I would say you're correct. Even though it does have a ridge, structurally inside it's basically just a shed roof. There is no peak, there's no real slope off two sides. It more just has a fancy overhang on the one side. You can see here like this little triangle, but structurally it doesn't come to a central peak, and so I wouldn't call that a gable, even though it does it does kind of allude to that. So, yeah, in some cases you might have to know a bit more about the structure before you call it. But yeah, and that's our little horse rarity there. So you can say hi to her. Of course, we try and always keep things entertaining out here on the farm. And of course, a farm wouldn't be complete without a barn. So, on that activity sheet, what was the name used for the barn roof? If you guessed gambrel, or if you read it off the sheet, that's right. Gambrels are a popular barn roof style. We have a couple barns out here, so I'm going to point out this is a little gambrel shed. And so inside of here, it's full of sheep poop, so I'm not going to take you inside right now. But inside of here, on the rafters, there's a brace that connects this part of the roof to that part of the roof. So it kind of comes across like this, little gusset, and it gives it strength because that's two different pieces of wood. Okay, now that things are truss built all the time, you might not even know it's a gambrel roof from inside because there may be a bunch of webbing or a flat ceiling or something even. So truss has kind of changed the game, but in a rafter build usually there's just a brace here, and the idea behind this roof design again is if they stack this up with hay inside, a single sloping gable would cut off the height of the stack, so this improves the attic space. Okay, so now I'm going to show you another barn, and this is one of those that isn't in the common roofs that we discussed in the lecture. And the reason I'm showing you is because just because something's classed as a barn doesn't mean it's a gambrel roof or a barn roof. Okay, also there's a misconception. I don't have a hip roof on the farm, and so I'm going to show you one that's commonly misnamed as a hip roof. Alright, so I'm going to spin you around again. So here's our beautiful barn, and this style roof is actually called a Gothic arch. So unlike the gambrel, that doesn't have that harsh transition. It has a smooth arch down the side, and so inside it doesn't have two-piece rafters. It has one bent rafter that makes that curve. Okay, and so it's a Gothic arch. You could write it down if you want to take notes. The misconception is a lot of people say, oh, that's a beautiful hip roof barn. And if you looked at what a hip roof is, that's not a hip roof at all. And I believe the misconception comes from perhaps it looks like a pair of curvy hips, you know. So maybe that's where the misconception comes from, but that is not a hip roof. That is a Gothic arch, and you'll see off the side of it we have what we would call a lean-to, which is basically just a shed roof, a single sloping roof. And as I mentioned with shed roofs, they aren't particularly that strong, and so you can see how this shed lean-to gets a lot of its strength from the existing barn. Okay, so that's a little example. I'm going to show you another shed roof now in with the sheep, so you get to say hi to them. Hope you're doing all right, that this camera isn't too shaky for you. So let's go say hi to some sheep. See how they're doing today. All right. Hi, Granny Sheep. How are you doing? Yeah. Okay. So we got this little sheep shelter here, and this is your classic shed roof. Okay. No weird spots on it like the horse thing. It's just as simple as it gets, and that's why it's so popular in agriculture. And another reason is because, let me get around the side here, because all the water is flowing off the back, okay, the entrance here, where all this poop and straw is, stays dry because the water doesn't come off the roof on this side. The animals can lay here and sun themselves, and they don't mix a bunch of water coming off the roof in with all this straw and manure, and so it helps keep the front of these buildings a lot cleaner. We have one where the animals can't access so much. I'll show you way over there in the background. We have a cow in there, and with that one what we actually do is we put a trough on the back of the building, and all the water runs off the roof and we collect it into a trough for the cow to drink from. And we keep it on the north side of the building so that algae and stuff doesn't grow in that water. Anyway, just an interesting side note. So we've covered a bunch here already, but I want to keep moving along. Don't want to bore you. I hope I haven't tripped you up with some of my examples. If I have, just go back, look at the sheet, and if you have those lecture notes, just read through the descriptions again. Alright, I'm going to show you another one here that we described, but I didn't have a picture of. It didn't make it onto that picture sheet. So if you enjoy drawing, perhaps you can just draw this one out in your notes. Okay? Alright. There was only one that I didn't have a picture for, so if you can match that up. Sorry. Alright. We got this one here. This is actually our greenhouse and potting shed. It's not a very common style roof, and this isn't a great example, but this is known as a clear story or clerestory roof. And the reason this is most commonly used is this higher roof here is usually built high enough that windows can be installed in that wall, allowing natural light into the north side of the building. And so it's differs from a gable roof because the two roof lines don't meet at a common ridge. One's lower than the other. Okay? So it's not just two shed roofs thrown together, and it's not a gable roof. It is known as a clerestory roof. Okay? A butterfly roof, if you look at the bottom of the sheet, would be if you took these two and angled them back towards each other to a common ridge. And a scissor roof, another one I'm just briefly going to mention, would be if these were both sloping in the same direction, like a sawtooth pattern. Okay, so there's all kinds of advanced roof systems out there. Some of them you'll rarely see because our climate kind of dictates what's practical and what's not. And there's just a couple more things I want to show you here. I'm going to walk over to my house and I'm going to show you a very small roof again. This is like the cornice I mentioned on the first gable roof. Remember, the cornice was how the overhang was finished. Alright, we're going to look up here, way up here on the house, way up on the second floor, so you can see I got those box cornices. Hang on. Right here, so this is boxed out. That's the box cornice again, just like that little shed. And then up here, above this window, I've got a little roof. This is called a bay window, because it looks like, imagine like a bay on a lake. A bow would be just more panes of glass, like a more even curve. So bays and bows, windows, often have their own little roof. So this would be called a bay or a bow roof. And sometimes that might match up with the roof, the bigger roof line, sometimes it doesn't. But again, that's just another little feature, good to keep in your pocket, but you won't be tested on that because that's more advanced roof framing. But here's one we are going to talk about a lot. Just let me get up on the back side here. Alright, in the background we've got, oh, sorry, lost you there in the sun. There. That's not working out so good. Okay, there. Alright, so we got our intersecting roof. We got a bunch of ice forming on the doghouse from the furnace too, but anyway, so we have a gable roof, or multiple gable roofs, being intersected by another gable roof. So it intersects because they aren't all just moving in the same direction. The roof lines are perpendicular to each other, okay? So that's an example of an intersecting roof. And then if you look up up on top here, there's a like a wall coming out of the roof line. It's higher than the rest of the roof line. So this is often called a dormer. Again, that's more advanced. But the simpler term that I will ask you to remember is the style roof on this dormer is a shed dormer. It's just a single slope on the dormer instead of being perhaps like a gable that would be similar to like the this lower intersecting portion. So yeah, that's all I have out here really for roofs. I've got a bunch more gable roofs I could show you and stuff, like the sheds and things like that. But hopefully those are just a few real-world examples to help you see some of the most common characteristics, some of the most common roofs. So hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to put a challenge out to you to take a picture of a roof. It can be your house. Just make sure you're not going to get in trouble. Don't go creep into the neighbors. But take a picture of a roof, and I want you to identify what style of roof you're looking at. And I want you to bring that picture to class next lesson, and we'll see how creative you got with the roofs. So thank you for watching. See you in class.